Hey y'all. So, more recently, within the last 2 months or so, I was playing through Assassin's Creed Rogue, and I just wanted to share my thoughts with y'all. So, I did 100% the game, I got full synchronization. But as I talk about this game, I'm probably going to keep it a little bit more casual just because, I want this to be an enjoyable experience for you, but I also want this to be an enjoyable experience for me. If I'm having fun, then chances are y'all are going to have a bit more fun. So I'm probably going to make the title of this video that Assassin's Creed Rogue is a fun to play, but it's boring to 100%. Now what I mean by this is that, the story, when it comes to the story of this game, it's probably going to be about 10 hours to complete. And the first 10 hours of this game are really fun. I enjoyed that time quite a bit. But then once you beat the story, because the story is pretty short, you start collecting everything, you start 100%ing the game, and that point becomes a bit of a slog. Now for me, I feel like Assassin's Creed Rogue has become a bit of the forgotten middle child. What I mean by this is that when you're thinking about the 360 games, I think the first game that comes to most people's mind is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, because that was a very memorable game, very fun. Most people enjoyed that one. And then if you're thinking about games that came out, in 2014, about that time, Assassin's Creed Rogue came out alongside Assassin's Creed Unity. And so within that time, Unity really was more popular than Rogue was at that time. Now, funnily enough, when I say that, Assassin's Creed Unity also has some infamy tied to it because when it came out, it was fairly buggy. And, everybody knows the image where it's just the person's face and it's just the eyes and the teeth and nothing else. It's really goofy and really, almost a little bit disturbing. But what I mean is that I don't see a whole lot of people talk about Assassin's Creed Rogue all that much. I usually see people talk about Black Flag, and sometimes I'll see people mention Unity, but I don't see too much about Rogue. At least, within my circle, I don't see it much. Now, that is kind of regrettable because I feel like there was a lot of potential behind Rogue's story, especially the fact that it's the one game where you play as a Templar or a rogue assassin. And for me, when this game came out in 2014, I saw that the game was always out on Walmart for $20. And I always wanted to pick it up, but I never did at the time. Just because I like to complete the games that I have, and at that time I was like, well, I already have this game and this game, I'm not going to have time to play Rogue. So I never bought it. And so here I am years later, 2026, finally playing Assassin's Creed Rogue. And I was really I didn't know a whole lot about the game. I was really excited to play Rogue. I was like, wow, it's been so long. I've always wanted to play this game. I can't wait to see what it's all about. And here I am. Overall, I would say a pleasant experience, a good experience. But I feel like it could have been much better if a few things were done. So I'm going to talk about a few of those things. Now I'm going to talk about the story in Assassin's Creed Rogue. I already mentioned this before. It stands out as the one Assassin's Creed game where you can play as a Templar. And that really does set it apart from all the other ones. And, there was a lot of potential behind that story. I feel like what it is okay. It's good. But I feel like there's a few things that could have made the game better. Now, I'm not going to hold that against the studio because they had 8 months to make this game, and that's an insanely short amount of time. I think had they had more time, were given more time, this game would have been much more polished and much better, and I really wish that had been the case. But here are a few things I think. The story, it's going to take a person about 8 to 10 hours to beat the story, especially if they just play it through. Now, one of the things that I wish that they had added in this game, if you go into the Animus database and you look at Shay Cormac's profile, it actually gives you backstory for who he is. So he's comes from these Irish immigrants. His mother dies when she's giving birth to Shay, and Shay's father was a man he was basically a merchant. He would sail the seas and he would I guess he would transport goods to other places. And so Shay, he's kind of living in New York, I believe. He's just a kid. He's living with his aunt, but he gets into a lot of fights. He gets into a lot of fights out in the streets with other kids, I assume. And by the time he turns 8, he's known for being a fighter. And so his father comes up to Shay and he's like, you want to join me and go to the seas and work with me? So the father hires Shay, and Shay becomes trained to use to fight with weapons and to fight with guns, and so that they can defend themselves against pirates. And so there's a few pirate attacks that do happen, and Shay is actually able to to hold them off to a certain degree. Obviously not by himself, right? But he's able to join in the fight. He's able to contribute, and there's also a point in there where he defeats a captain on his own with a gun. And so it's kind of noted that Shay is already kind of impressive, honestly, right? Able to fight pirates at a young age, at 8 years old. But unfortunately, there's a storm that happens. It kills Shay's father and it kills a lot of the crew. And Shay is one of the few people who's able to survive and returns to society. And he's very depressed. He reunites with his friend Liam. Liam's been friends with him for a long time. And Liam is already part of the Assassins. So Liam, helps Shay back onto his feet. And he introduces him to the Assassin Brotherhood, and then the game starts from there. So I really wish that part of the story had been part of the game, had been depicted through like cutscenes or gameplay. I think it would have been really cool. I think it would have added to the story. All of this story is in the game, but it's just in text. It's not depicted in a particularly meaningful way, in my opinion. It's just kind of there for like, if you're looking for it, you'll find it. If you're not looking for it, you're probably not going to interact with it. And, it is what it is. Now, after you join the Assassin Brotherhood, you kind of meet like who the other assassins are. You interact with them a little bit, you train with them. But I feel like this game could have depicted Shay as being closer with the assassins, or shown his relationship with those other characters a bit more, because, you interact with Hope, you interact with Katsigo Wase, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right. You interact with some of the assassins, but like the relationships don't seem particularly meaningful. They seem kind of surface level. It's like, all right, here are my coworkers, and I talk with them every now and then, and I train with them, and that's it. Like it doesn't seem particularly meaningful. And so I feel like had Shay been portrayed as closer to them, or we see more of their interactions, or we see them get closer to each other, I feel like it would have made the betrayal of him with the assassins more impactful. Because with the way it is, basically what happens is that Shay is told by Achilles, like, go to Lisbon and procure these pieces of Eden, basically. And he goes to Lisbon and he finds this artifact, right? And he takes the artifact, he removes it. Once he removes it, Lisbon, there's a whole big old earthquake. Lisbon is destroyed, all these people die. And Shay is racked with guilt, racked with, all of these negative feelings of like, what have I done? What has Achilles made me do, right? And so he goes to the Assassin Brotherhood, he goes to the homestead. He confronts Achilles, gets upset with him. He's like, look what you made me do. I can't believe you did this to me. And, the whole thing gets pretty heated. And the point of that whole interaction is that there's a huge misunderstanding. I don't think Achilles knew that there was going to be an earthquake. Shay seems to assume that Achilles knew it would cause an earthquake. And so there's this big old misunderstanding. Shay is racked with his guilt. Achilles is just upset that he's being, that he's being put in a negative light, that he's being accused. And so they start fighting each other. There's a lot of misinterpretations. And, honestly, when I was reading through this scene on the Assassin's Creed Wiki, it seemed a lot more interesting when I was reading it, because, you get that sense of misunderstanding. Whereas like when you watch it happen, it's just like, it feels kind of sudden and it feels kind of like a little bit forced, kind of, I would say. So I just feel like the betrayal could have been done a bit better. And I really wish that Shay had become closer with the assassins so that the betrayal could feel more impactful. But that's just my opinion. With the way that it actually is, it's okay, but I feel like something about it could have been done better. Now, in this game, it's supposed to be connected to these other games. It's supposed to be connected to Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4, and Unity. And more specifically, you see characters like Achilles from 3, you see Haytham Kenway from 3, and you see Adewale from 4. And at the very end of the game, you do run into Arno. It was nice to see all of those characters in this game, especially if you've played the other games. It's a nice, little cameo. And it's a little bit more meaningful than a cameo, because the characters do interact with Shay, and they do, they do impact the plot of the game. So it's really nice. I do like that aspect of the story. I appreciate it. And I wanted to talk about one other thing about the story. And this is more of a goofy thing, more of a silly thing, rather than something serious. When I played this game, I played the story, like I would play a level of the story, and then I would do some exploring, then I would explore, then I would look at the story. So it was like, so the story for me was, kind of stretched out, I would say, to about like 15 hours about. And so there's a line that Shay Patrick Cormac says a lot, all right? And if you play this game, you already know what that line is, all right? What Shay likes to say a lot, he likes this line. It's like a catchphrase of his. He says, I make my own luck. And he says it a lot. And when I played the game, I actually wasn't bothered by it, because, I would play like, 10 to 20 minutes of the story, and then I would explore, then I would do 10 to 20 minutes of the story. So like hearing him say, I make my own luck every now and then, it wasn't that bad, because, days would pass for me between hearing that. But there was an instance where I was like listening to a person stream this game, and they played this game in a way that they were just doing the story and nothing else. And so like every half hour or every Just every now and then, way too often, you would hear him be like, "I make my own luck. What do you think about this, Patrick Shea? I make my own luck. What are you gonna do about this, Patrick Shea? Oh, I make my own luck." He says it. He says it a lot, and it's funnier when you're doing the story just back to back. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of goofy. I bet if you try to look for like just videos of the story, like a whole like Assassin's Creed as a movie where they take all the game clips and they just put them all together, I'm sure you could experience the same thing, and it would probably be much more time efficient doing it that way. So if you ever watch Assassin's Creed Rogue as a movie, you're probably going to experience that silliness. And it's not the end of the world. It's not the worst thing about the story, honestly. I just find it more amusing. I find it humorous, and so I just thought I'd let you all know. Now I wanted to talk about the good stuff about this game, all the stuff that I enjoyed, the stuff I looked forward to, and the stuff that, like, if you ever decided to play this game, I think you would enjoy these aspects too. So here are a lot of the positives about Assassin's Creed Rogue. These are gonna be out of order. There's no specific order. For me, one of the things that I liked a lot about this game was the renovations. Throughout this game, when you're a Templar, Templars, they kind of own a lot of property, they own a lot of land. And so as a Templar, you get to renovate these buildings, you get to upgrade them. You get like a shabby shack or like a shabby barn, or a building that's kind of run down, kind of destroyed. And someone would be like, hey, you want to renovate this for some cloth and metal and stone and all that stuff? And then once you renovate it, the place is improved, you get a stream of income going. And the place is notably better. Like what I would do every now and then when I found a renovated building, I would walk around it before it was renovated. I would look at like how worn down it is or how messy it is, and then I would renovate it, and then I would walk around again, see how it improved, how it looks better. It was really satisfying for me. And one of the key differences that you see between a rundown building and a renovated one is once you do a renovation, the more people will show up at that location. So like, there was one example where I was on this island. There's like a little fishing shack where it's just for a fisherman just to fish. And so when it's run down, there's no one there, it's abandoned. And then when you renovate it, there's a lone fisherman that's there, he's fishing, he's just enjoying life. And there's a lot of stuff where that happens. Or like you'll renovate a building, a bunch of people show up, they're like, working with hides, animal skins, and they're all talking to each other, they're gathered around a campfire, they're interacting. So it was a nice little thing where it's like you're upgrading these buildings, and you're making the community a better place, and you get a stream of income going. So it's a really nice, satisfying thing. On another note, this game has a lot of collectibles, and most of the collectibles I don't really care for, but there's one collectible I did enjoy, and it's called Prosperity. And it's usually like a yellow gem that will stand out somewhere in the map. You go and collect it, and what Prosperity does when you collect it is that once you collect a certain amount of them, it upgrades your income by a certain percentage. So it makes like however much money that you get from like a piece of property, it'll go up by a percentage. So it like the more prosperity you get, the more income that you're gonna earn, and it just kind of compounds on itself. And it's a really nice way to help yourself earn more income throughout the game. There's also a nice little like idle mini game that this game has. This mini game is actually from Assassin's Creed 4, and it's called the Naval Fleet Missions. And so what'll happen is you'll be sailing throughout the oceans, throughout the seas, and you'll find some enemy ships, and you can attack them, and once you defeat them, you can take them, you can conquer them, and you can add them to your own fleet. And so what happens once you get a good fleet going, at some point in the story, you'll unlock these naval fleet missions. And what you do is like you take a ship and you'll send it out on a mission. It'll give you like a percentage of like how successful that ship might be. So it's like, oh, you're going to send this ship, there's a 80% chance it'll succeed, or a 98% chance it'll succeed. So you want to continually be capturing better and better ships so that you can send them on these missions. And when you succeed at these missions, you'll get income, or you'll unlock these little I think most of the unlocks are just things that you can read or things that you can look at your own house, like at your house in the game. But some of the rewards that you get are worthwhile, because you'll get better weapons, you'll get like better swords, you'll get better pistols, and then when you beat all of the naval fleet missions, you'll actually unlock Altair's sword. And Altair's sword is the best weapon in the game. So once you get that, a lot of the combat becomes much easier, much more enjoyable. And so that final weapon that you get makes the naval fleet missions very worthwhile, in my opinion. And I think it's like the best collectible that you can get in the game, the Altair sword. It's worth working towards. Another thing that makes a return from past games is hunting. Now, hunting is kind of fun. It's nice to like upgrade your own character and to get more HP and get more, pouches for your weapons so you can hold more ammo. But really, there was really only like one part of hunting that I personally really enjoyed, and it's the fact that you can go out and you can hunt a white whale. You can go and hunt Moby Dick, and I think that's really cool because, me personally, I think Moby Dick is really cool. I think the idea of like, kind of role playing as like a whaler and hunting down this white whale, and it's pretty strong, right? It's like the strongest animal that you can hunt down. For me, it's kind of satisfying because I'm a little bit of a literature geek. That's just how I am. So for me, I really like that that's in this game. That, from what I remember, that was originally in Assassin's Creed 4, so that makes a return here. And so I just enjoy it. I think it's really cool. I also think that taking over forts with your ship and taking over HQs run by the gangs, that's also pretty satisfying. Both of them are pretty fun. It's nice to like see that you're gaining more territory, that you're getting more income. It's just a nice little extra thing to do, and it's pretty fun and enjoyable to do. And the last major positive that I have about this game, I do appreciate that they added the legendary ship battles. Now those battles, I believe they originated in Assassin's Creed 4 as well, and they make a return here, which I do appreciate because those battles being there, it gives you motivation and a reason to fully upgrade the Morgan, to fully upgrade your ship. Because without those legendary battles, it's like, okay, well, I can upgrade the ship and be more powerful. Now it'd still be fun, but it's nice to have that battle to aim for. For me, most of the legendary battles were kind of forgettable, but the last one was worthwhile. The last one is the Storm Fortress. It's this uber powerful ship. I would call it the super optional of this game, really. It completely demolished me like a solid, like maybe 5 or 8 times. It was pretty wild. I think I spent like maybe 45 minutes trying to fight it and just losing over and over and over and over again. And I was kind of losing my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculously difficult. What do I do? And I admit, I had to look up a strategy of like, how do I take this thing down? I won't tell you what it is. You can figure that out on your own. But yeah, I went and I fought it. And because it was so challenging and so difficult, when I finally did beat that battle, it was very memorable for me. It was very, I felt this like self-satisfaction. At the very least, like while I think it's maybe a little bit too difficult, I would still leave the difficulty the same. And yeah, it was just a really memorable time for me. Really fun, really difficult, really challenging, but a good time overall. Storm Fortress, good time. So those were all the positives that I had about this game, and now I'm gonna get into like the neutrals. So these are they're not like positives, they're not negatives, they're just kind of in the middle. Mostly for me, a lot of the mid stuff, a lot of the, meh stuff is mostly the outfits. And what I mean by this is that there's like 2 outfits that I remember the most from this game, or there's actually like 3. You have the Viking outfit, and the Viking outfit is actually pretty cool. It's pretty good. I thought that the Viking outfit was going to look really out of place and really dumb when I first unlocked it, but once I unlocked it and I was using it, it actually works really well for like being out in the wilderness, being out amongst the trees and the snowy storms, and where the setting is, it actually fits really well, especially if you're outdoors within the game. But my opinion is I don't know that it's worth it to collect all of the sword fragments from it. Not the worst collectibles and not the worst reward. It's good, but I feel like it was too much work for too little reward. And it's kind of the same with the Templar outfit and the native armor. I wasn't particularly impressed, me personally, that's just me, with the Templar outfit and the native armor. If y'all like those outfits, more power to you. I don't dislike them. I just, it's a lot of work for those outfits, and it's not, it's kind of just okay. Going through all the Templar maps to get the Templar outfit, a lot of work for not a lot of return, in my opinion. Native armor, I do like the native pillars. I think that was kind of fun, but for the armor, I don't really care for it too much. That's just me. And some of these outfits do have hidden bonuses, which I think that is cool, but I do wish that they weren't hidden. I think it should be like portrayed in the game like, hey, like this outfit comes with this perk. I think that it would be better if they did that as opposed to like you just kind of find out by accident or you look it up on the internet. I just think hidden perks, in my opinion, they shouldn't be hidden. They should be, it should be told to you what they do. That's just my opinion. Now, another mid thing that I kind of didn't care too much for is all of the present day stuff. So the present day stuff, you're this regular person working at Abstergo. You are fixing all of these computers, you're doing all of these puzzles, and those puzzles are not super fun. They're very meh. It's like all of this has been very meh. All this section, right? Doing all the puzzles is kind of boring, I would say overall, and like the small little audio tidbits that you get from it. Some of them were interesting. I would say like maybe like 3 or 4 of them were interesting, but I think there's like 20 of them, and most of them I was just kind of I don't really care about all this stuff, because maybe it's because I don't know who all the characters are and I don't really know what's going on with all of that specific story stuff. So those rewards, that like bit of story, I was just kind of like, well, I don't know what any of this is, so I don't really care. That was kind of my thing. Also, the present day really just feels like one big advertisement for Ubisoft, because when you're in the present day, you see a lot of like Assassin's Creed games, you see a lot of Watchdog games, you see I think there's I forget what it's called, I think it's like Splinter Recon or something, I can't remember what it is. It's like a stealth game. And then you see Far Cry. So you see a lot of Ubisoft games just strewn around the office. It's a big old advertisement for their games, and Ubisoft has the right to do that with their game, and it's kind of cute and funny in its own way, but I think it's just a little goofy. That's my opinion. And now I'm gonna get into the negatives. Now, it's kind of funny because apparently there's a decent sized community that absolutely loves this game, and so it'll be interesting if I get a few people in my comments who are like, I can't believe you hate this game, I can't believe you would say such a thing. So that might happen. If it does happen, it is what it is. But these are some of the things that I wasn't particularly fond of. So okay, when I play a game, I do like to 100% them, and I have 100%ed Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 4, and Assassin's Creed 2, and now this game. But it's been a few years since I played a lot of those older Assassin's Creed games, and really my biggest problem does have to do with like this feeling that these games have too many collectibles, or that a good chunk of these collectibles are just kind of time wasters. They don't respect your time. There's not enough reward for like what you're getting. That's just kind of my opinion on some of these things, and I'll tell you what they are. I was almost gonna call this game a collectathon. The specific reason why I didn't call it a collectathon is because when it comes to games like Mario 64 or Spyro or Banjo-Kazooie, games that are actually collectathons, or where the point of the game is to collect everything. The point of being like a collectathon is that progress is halted by how much you collect and how much you don't collect. When it comes to Assassin's Creed, all of the collectibles are optional. You don't have to actually go after the chest or the Abstergo fragments and all that stuff. You don't have to do that. But for me, I like to 100% my games. Overall, the 100%ing experience was kind of fun, but it was very tedious and it was a slog. It just took up too much time and it wasn't the funnest thing in the world. So here are some of the specific collectibles that I didn't like. So one of the first collectibles that I find to be kind of pointless, mostly pointless, are the chests. Now there's a bunch of chests that are splayed throughout all of the world, and each time you find a chest, you open it up and you loot like probably somewhere between 180 to 300 monies. I'm just gonna call them monies, okay, to make it easier. Then the biggest reason that the chests are kind of pointless is because once you get renovations going, and once you conquer forts and you conquer headquarters, you start earning income passively. And so the income that you get from opening a chest becomes obsolete. Like by the end of this game, I was a millionaire, and the chests were just like these random boxes of nothing that I had to open to 100% the game. So I feel like there's too many chests. I feel like they could have just cut back on the chests just because of that passive stream of income. It kind of renders a lot of the chests obsolete, especially at the end of the game. So I feel like the chests become pointless. They're not completely pointless because at the beginning of the game, they're useful, but at the end of the game, they're kind of useless. The second collectible I really didn't care for was the animus fragments. There's like 200 animus fragments. That's that's too many, all right? 200 of anything, that's too many, all right? When you collect the animus fragments, to some degree, one of the good things that you do get out of it, you get these cheats, like these things that alter the game and how it plays. But again, there's 200 of them. That's way too many. And then when you do all the fragments, you get like these little bits of audio that I think are from Juno. So it's a bit of like backstory. And for people who like the backstory of this game, that might be worthwhile. But for me, it really wasn't worthwhile. A lot of work for just like a short audio file that I didn't really care too much for. So I think there's just too darn many animus fragments. It's too much. The cave paintings. I think cave paintings are an interesting idea, but as far as I could tell, there really wasn't a worthwhile reward tied to the cave painting. So I think the cave paintings could have been given a better reward. But as far as I could remember, there really wasn't really a big point of going after those. The problem with these specific collectibles is that there's not a worthwhile reward. It takes up a bunch of time. When you're trying to gather these collectibles, much of your time is going to be spent running around in silence or in ambiance. The ambiance is nice, but because it's silent, there's no like music, there's nothing really super engaging when it comes to the audio. So Assassin's Creed works really well as a game like where you can just pop a podcast or some sort of video essay on and just listen to it as you're playing. So it's kind of nice for that. But you know, if you're playing this in silence, it gets pretty boring, I would say, pretty tedious fairly quickly. And really you're just collecting items for the sake of collecting them. Now that's different from a game like Banjo-Kazooie or Mario or Spyro, because those games have engaging music. They have, you know, different types of enemies. The worlds are very colorful. The worlds are very diverse, and things change. You know what I mean? There's a sense where like each world is different. Collecting the collectibles is engaging, whereas in this game, collecting the collectibles, it can be kind of fun for its own sake, but it's not. I think it's just too much. I think it takes up too much time, and I think the end reward is just not worthwhile. Now that's tied to the collectibles. Now when I 100% of this game, I also went for all of the achievements. And specifically, I was playing this game for the Xbox 360 version, all right? So it's not the remastered version. But there's two specific achievements that I thought were kind of boring and very pointless in my opinion. There's an achievement for destroying 100 icebergs. Why is there an achievement for destroying 100 icebergs? There's no reason to destroy 100 of them. You gotta go out and look for those icebergs. You gotta shoot at them. It just takes too much time. There's no reason to do it. It's a super arbitrary achievement. It's stupid. Why did they put this in the game? You know what I mean? This is kind of dumb. And the other achievement that I really didn't care for is looting 20 convoys. And that process in itself is not the worst thing, but the convoys, they spawn at random times at random places. Well, not super random places, but they spawn randomly. You can sort of like summon one through the taverns, but there is a cooldown, like, because what happened to me, that was the last achievement I got in this game. And so what I would do is I would spawn at Anticosti, I would look around, find a convoy, loot it, and then spawn at a different place, loot the convoy there, and then I would have to like fast travel between spots. And then sometimes those convoys did not spawn, and then I would go to the tavern, and then I would get intel, and it only offers one piece of intel, and then that intel needs to refresh. And so I think there's like a time limit to like how often you can use the tavern for that. So I literally spent probably like a solid hour, maybe an hour and a half, just sailing around looking for convoys, and it was just kind of tedious. So that specific achievement I didn't really care for either. There's some other achievements that are tied to like using cheats and like destroying a certain number of ships, or destroying a certain number of guards. And it was just kind of, in my opinion, it was just kind of boring. I mean, it's a little bit challenging, but it's not super engaging, at least in my opinion. So like overall, for the most part, that's what I have to say about Assassin's Creed Rogue. I think overall it is still a good time, and like if you're a fan of Assassin's Creed, I do think this game is worth playing. If you're not a fan of Assassin's Creed, you might want to play something like Black Flag first. And if you can handle like old controls and old graphics, maybe play Assassin's Creed 2. You know, this game is good. It is good. I did have a good time playing it. It was just that completing it kind of sucked, if I'm being completely honest. The first 10-ish hours or maybe 15-ish hours of playing through the story content, that was pretty fun. But then at the end of the game, when I had to complete everything, get all the collectibles, get all the achievements, it became a bit of a slog at times. Not everything was a slog, but a lot of the collectibles, there was just too many of them. Not a good enough reward for collecting everything. So, you know, the 100%ing aspect of this game could be better. I do think to some degree, I thought it was a little bit weird that there's a lot of locations in this game and not all of the locations are particularly meaningful. Like, not all of them are used for stories. Some of them just exist for like, all right, here's another place where you can collect stuff. So, you know, that can be a good thing, but, you know, had they cut some of those locations out and put that towards like story content, or put that towards, you know, maybe more worthwhile collectibles, I think that would have been better. But that's just my opinion. Again, they had like 8 months to make this game, so very short amount of time to make a game. And I'm sure if they had more time, this game would be much better. I think another thing that could have made this game a bit better is like if they wanted to keep the same amount of collectibles, I think it could have been cool to offer like behind the scenes content or like art content, kind of like how, you know, in Arkham City, when you get all of the Riddler trophies, it gives you like concept art and it gives you, you know, a lot of that fun stuff. I think that could have been really cool in this game. I don't know if Assassin's Creed has ever done that before, but hey, you know, if Ubisoft is listening, you know, that might be worthwhile. I think that could be kind of cool. That's just my opinion. But nevertheless, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I hope you got something valuable out of it. If you feel so inclined, please drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel. If you want to do any of those things, I would highly appreciate it. It does help my channel to grow, helps my algorithm. And again, you know, if there's any YouTubers that you appreciate, especially the smaller ones, please do that for them as well. It goes a long way for us, and so, you know, just really appreciate it. You know, if you have any thoughts about the video or thoughts about this game, I would appreciate if you left a comment, because I do usually read through them and I might also reply. But nevertheless, thank you for being here. Y'all have an excellent day, and I will see you all later. Take care.